Hi, my name is Jeff Fix. I'm a county commissioner here in Fairfield County, and I sure do appreciate you taking time to watch this video. The thing I wanted to talk about today is how we talk to each other. When I was a kid growing up in Wisconsin, my mother's parents would host, on a pretty regular basis, these family get-togethers. We're Irish, so my grandmother called her family the Griffin clan, and she loved having her two brothers and all their kids and my mom and her sister and all the rest of us for any holiday, birthday, you name it. If she could come up with a reason to throw a party, by God, we all got together and had a great time. And the pattern for these gatherings was always the same. My parents and my aunt and uncle and us kids would all get there a bit early to help set up. Then my mom's aunt and uncles and cousins would arrive with baskets of food or gifts or both, and we'd all have a big meal together, scattered around the house. And then the adults would gather in the living room. My Uncle Jim would light his pipe, Uncle Bud would pour a beer, and everyone would settle into their traditional seats around the room, and a great discussion would ensue. The conversation always started with the Green Bay Packers or the Milwaukee Brewers, depending on the time of year, and would eventually turn to politics. Uncle Bud and Uncle Jim were staunch Republicans, while my grandfather was a Boston Democrat. Needless to say, they didn't always agree, but they'd go back and forth, sometimes for what seemed like hours, and never get personal, never be disrespectful, never get mean. They often agreed to disagree and moved on. Keep in mind that this is during the time of Nixon and Watergate, Gerald Ford and Jimmy Carter, so there was plenty to talk about. And when the conversation wore out, everyone would pack up their baskets with leftovers and gifts and find their coats and head out, hugging and kissing all the way. And then, a few weeks later, we'd do it all over again. The point of all this is that this is how I learned to debate politics. It's not done with vitriol or personal attacks or anger. Rather, it's a healthy discussion where there's an effort to understand the other person's perspective on any certain topic, to actually hear them and what they're thinking and feeling, and then address their points with points of your own, attacking the idea, not the person. Because at the end of the day, we all have to live with each other. And I bring all this up because I don't feel like this is how we deal with each other anymore. At the federal level, I'm disgusted with the way Republicans and Democrats attack each other personally, often very personally, rather than having a healthy, robust discussion about any topic. And I'm disappointed that lately some of this has crept into our local situation, whether on social media or in emails to one of us or even in our meetings. There's a tension and a tone that are not productive and are, in my estimation, completely unnecessary. There are people in our county who have absolutely legitimate concerns about solar farms or a land use plan or other topics of the day, and there's a way for us to have healthy, robust discussions on those topics and many others. Unfortunately, not everyone approaches a conversation with the commissioners in this way. Rather, some take time to talk about things that the commissioners have nothing to do with, like the Chinese army or, to this very day, the COVID conspiracy and cover-up. Now, people can come in and talk to the commissioners about anything, but honestly, dealing with the Chinese military or the federal government's response to the COVID epidemic, it's just a little bit above our pay grade. We don't and can't impact those things, so taking time in public meetings to talk about them and to be arrogant and condescending while doing so, it's just really not helpful. Others who do want to talk about topics that the commissioners are involved with take an approach that's not about having a productive conversation. Rather, it seems, they're interested in making a show of themselves in front of an audience. I can tell you that accusing the commissioners of intentionally misleading the public is not a great start. Accusing us of having some hidden agenda doesn't usually work. Acting like you're the moral authority on any given topic seems a bit pretentious, and the one that really burns me is the questioning of what our motivations really are. I can tell you this, I've held elected office for 18 years now. Commissioners Davis and Levesey both for many more years than that. I've never worked with a group that is more committed to doing the right things for the right reasons, regardless of the political consequences, than the three of us are. During my time as a Pickering City Councilman, Chairman of the Republican Party, and now as a Commissioner, we've weathered some significant storms. And my colleagues have faced significant challenges as Commissioners before I joined them. We've all done this in our own way, but with a common theme. Always do what you believe to be the right thing for the right reasons, and the rest will take care of itself. So what I'm suggesting is, rather than having the keyboard courage to accuse us of some untoward motivation or activity, or standing in front of us when you know there's not a time for discussion or debate, rather than doing those things to make yourself feel good and score some points with your friends, have the actual courage to have a real conversation. Let me give you a couple recent examples of people who have taken a different approach that I've really appreciated. Evan Martin is a young farmer and a fireman in Walnut Township. He came to a couple of our meetings just to listen, and then he called me up and asked to meet. We had a beer at a place in Pickerington and talked for an hour and a half about his concerns. I heard him, and after our meeting, I feel like he had a deeper understanding of the commissioner's point of view as well. Josh Berry also came to a couple of our meetings and spoke at one of them. He too is a farmer in Walnut Township, and after one of our commission meetings, he invited me out to his farm. A couple weekends later, I went out there on a Saturday morning and spent 2 hours with him. We toured his farm and then drove around and looked at where the proposed solar farm would be and how he felt it would impact his property. Later, his dad and his uncle joined the conversation, and as I was leaving, I got the feeling that those three felt like they had been heard, and they too had a better understanding of my perspective on the situation. Paul and Selen McCord sent an email that wasn't the typical, "We don't want solar because it'll ruin our view, destroy our farmland, displace wildlife, and foul the water." Instead, Mr. and Mrs. McCord sent a 7-page email loaded with facts and 23 citations that they used to back up what they had to say, links to websites, articles from experts, etc. Now, this was a useful email. It wasn't about the emotions they felt. It was factual presentation of the perceptions they had about how solar farms would affect them. And finally, Beth Cotell, who's leading one of the anti-solar groups. When she came to talk to us, she's not dramatic and she doesn't threaten us, "Do what we want or we'll remember what you do when we go to vote." Rather, Mrs. Cotell is respectful and courteous and has, on several occasions, invited us to sit on her front porch. I'm taking her up on it. I'm going to sit on her front porch tomorrow to hear her and her neighbors and talk about their situation and the situation we as county commissioners find ourselves in. These to me are examples of a discourse, a conversation, a way of addressing each other that leads to deeper understandings of each other's perspectives. I get a much deeper understanding of the legitimate concerns and can offer my perspective on where all this is going. And at the end of the conversation, we both understand that this is a complex and difficult issue and that we're both in a tough spot, and there's a commitment to furthering the conversation as time goes on. And that, to me, is the essence of public service. There's an issue in which different people have differing opinions, and we actually spend time discussing those opinions and concerns and find some mutual ground. And we agree to work together to continue the conversation in the hopes that when all is said and done, we've all handled the issue and each other with respect and dignity. We won't always agree. That's never going to happen. But we can disagree without being disagreeable. We can have differing opinions and still respect each other. And we can work together for the common good of all of our county residents. That's the job you elected the three of us to do, and I'm incredibly proud of the way all three of us do it. You want to talk? Come find me. My number's all over the place, and I'm not hard to track down. I'll come talk to you, and more importantly, I'll hear you. And I hope you'll hear me. And when we do that, maybe there'll be just a bit more mutual respect and grace that we can give each other. Wouldn't that be a great example for us to show our kids and grandkids? So thank you for hearing me out on this topic. It's been on my mind for some time, and I just felt like it was time to say something. We serve all of you and every resident and business owner in Fairfield County. We want to hear you. We want to understand your concerns. We want to treat you with respect and to feel respected in return. I look forward to many meaningful conversations in the weeks, months, and years ahead. Thank you very much.